For the past 10 years, DreamFactory has been helping organizations around the world unlock data silos by providing a solution for instantaneously generating secure REST APIs capable of communicating with a wide variety of data sources, including most notably Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, and Snowflake. By adopting the DreamFactory platform, businesses, they can remove a lot of the tedious and frankly insecure coding that comes with building, among other things, business intelligence tools. But even the most sophisticated BI tools, they often fall short in terms of being able to translate an executive or an employee's thought processes into actionable data. In recent years, the rise of large language models, or LLMs, has made chat-based interfaces increasingly ubiquitous. Now, I suppose this extraordinary rate of adoption shouldn't be surprising, considering as humans we prefer to communicate using our natively spoken languages instead of through a point-and-click or programmatic intermediary. Naturally, enterprises would love to add LLM and chat-based capabilities to business operations and decision-making toolbox, but they can't actually easily do so because there has been no practical and secure way to plug their data silos into these services. Now, that all began to change a few months ago when the Model Context Protocol, or MCP for short, was put forth as a way to plug third-party data of all types into LLM-based interfaces. But MCP alone isn't enough for enterprise adoption because these companies must still protect and segment data access according to who and what is interacting with the data. DreamFactory has for years solved this issue on the API side of things through robust role-based access controls, or RBAC, and is now doing it again through role-based chat access controls, or RBAC. Our recently released MCP server works alongside the DreamFactory platform to securely integrate enterprise data into LLM services. In doing so, companies can be confident that sensitive corporate data won't be exposed, spilled, or exfiltrated due to lax or often non-existent authorization policies. To demonstrate this capability, we've created this chat interface which can act on behalf of several different hypothetical organization members, such as HR, the CEO, finance department, DevOps, and so forth. Now, it's important to understand that queries submitted to this interface, and they're, as you'll see, are chat-based queries, are ultimately interacting with two different corporate databases, notably SQL Server and Postgres. And as you'll see, not only can the query results be restricted according to who is executing the query, but the results can also very naturally combine results from multiple data sources. Again, in this case, it'll be Postgres and SQL Server, but in other scenarios, it could be Snowflake. It could be data being received from a factory floor, for example, by way of IoT devices. It could be really anything that DreamFactory supports from a data source perspective. So let's go ahead and walk through a couple different examples. So currently, as you can see, I am interacting as the HR role, and I'll just go ahead and ask a simple question here. When did Brandon Perez join the company? and in what department. So I'll go ahead and ask that question. Now, what DreamFactory is doing in the background along with the MCP server is it is checking the role-based access controls or role-based chat access controls associated with this particular user role. And because we are logged in as a member of HR, we can retrieve HR-related information regarding this individual's employment start date and department. Now, what if we instead asked the question about revenue, such as how much revenue did we earn in the year Brandon joined? Right? Could be an innocent question, might not be, right? But in either case, it's probably unlikely that somebody from HR is going to have access to corporate revenue numbers in many cases. So we'll go ahead and ask that question. And in return, the user receives a message indicating that access to financial or sales related data is just not available. And of course, this is a canned response. This can be updated to reflect any particular use case. Now, of course, the CEO, of course, is going to have access to revenue-related data. So if I go ahead and just clear out our screen here and switch to the CEO role, and I'll ask the same question. Just change this up. In the year Brandon Perez joined the company, I'll go ahead and ask that question. And there we go. So we have some information about the year Brandon joined the company, 2024, and information about total revenue earned. Now, of course, these types of queries wouldn't be related necessarily only to HR or revenue-related numbers. And in particular, having worked in tech for my career, what I find interesting about these interfaces, this approach to querying corporate data, my interest lies on the infrastructure and software side of things. So imagine, I'll go ahead and clear my chat history here. Imagine we switched over to a DevOps role, right? We might want to ask questions about maybe machine health or server health, right? So how many machines had a failed routine check in 2024? Okay, this is from my standpoint, a much easier and convenient way to check up on the status of our infrastructure rather than poring over log data, looking through endless dashboards and so forth. And here we go. In the year 2024, there were 24 maintenance records, and you can read the rest here. But I'm asking a question in the most convenient way for me through natural language, and of course I'm receiving the desired response in return. We could also, I'll just switch back to the CEO role for one last example here. We can switch back to the CEO role and maybe ask a question such as create a table showing employees and their departments, right? So we want ultimately multimodal capabilities here, right? We want to be able to ask a question, sure, but in response we might want diagrams or charts or tables or maybe even videos. And what we're aiming for here ultimately is the ability for our team to really gain a holistic understanding of whatever question is being asked, and that might not necessarily come through a written response. It might be shown visually or possibly even via audio in a variety of different ways. In closing, when working with the team at DreamFactory and interacting with interfaces like this, I often think of a old colleague of mine. His name is Steve, and he runs a business that's not necessarily tech related, but it's tech adjacent. And that said, Steve's not a particularly technical guy, but he does have an extraordinary grasp on the daily ongoings of his business and has built a quite successful one at that. And I often think of Steve when interacting with these types of interfaces because I just think of the power that can be had by an executive wielding this type of tool, right? Often executives and company founders are thinking about their businesses 24/7 and ask a lot of questions because of that. And it's often been the case in my experience that those questions often cannot be easily answered because of this not particularly ideal interface, which has been the computer, the point and click interface, the need to go through these business intelligence tools and so forth. I would certainly imagine in a very near period of time, individuals such as Steve are going to sit down at their laptop or frankly even talk into their phones and just ask the questions that they've always wanted to ask about the ongoings of their business, and perhaps for the first time ever receive an immediate and accurate response. And I think that's just a pretty extraordinary step forward in the evolution of IT and its role in business. Thank you for your time today, and if you'd like to learn more about how DreamFactory can make your enterprise data more accessible through chat-based interfaces and AI agents, head on over to our website at dreamfactory.com.